of spade work and foundational work in advance on development projects, because you may be setting a precedent that could affect all kinds of things, including whether or not I put a bowling alley downtown.
There's nothing that this commission can do to stop that. There are already conflict laws out there that would stop that.
So
my comments to you two were
used?
saying, you looked at each other, I believe you looked at each other and said, I've never heard of that. But it happens quite frequently, and it did happen in our township.
So are you saying that
I just wanted to make that clear that it is happening, and I don't believe there's anything you can do to stop it in this commission.
Actually, New York State has a code of ethics that they're working on, sure.
So does your local community, is there a movement put forth from your communities to create a code of ethics? Or is that something that the state should do, or counties, or townships, or? I'm not sure how to.
Well, the code of ethics is going to be, has to be controlled at the next ballot box.
Well,
that's when they'll be out of there.
That's what I thought. In the meantime, this guy's got to make a living, and you've got to have a community you can live in. So.
I'm not developing there.
No.
Can I give you another example? There's a township up in Benson County, no zoning. 3 of the board officials have signed leases a long time ago.
They signed leases?
They have signed leases.
Yeah, ours signed leases as well.
We have
Supervisor
and it was,
But also it's their choices.
okay.
It's their
So
choice.
then-
Let the gentleman get his question out, or his comments.
The township, the citizens have asked them to enact zoning. They refused to do that. So they're in the process of trying to recall the officials. They've asked for a moratorium until, and they refused that as well. They won't recluse themselves, and even if they did, they wouldn't have a majority to represent the community.
Where is Benson County?
Benson County is north of Manistee.
I know it is.
Let me state real quickly, and I'll get to you in a second. Today's Portland Press Herald in Maine, Portland, Maine, is looking at 4 unrelated bills. I'm not going to mention them all, but one of them is to establish a code of ethics. This relates to a couple of things that some of you have said. To prohibit conflicts of interest between town, county, or state officials and wind energy developers. Code of ethics may be what we're really talking about in some ways here, in terms of conflict resolution. Trust, community trust. But we need codes of ethics for our politicians in general, right? But this has become a real problem in a lot of states. Let me get to you right now.
I'm sorry. The other point I wanted to make is that we talked about what could this commission do, and maybe specifically what the wind developers could do, instead of coming in, and they're all doing this, as far as I know, everybody I've talked to, they do come in like the oil and gas places, and they do this under the radar, trying to tie up property, because they know that's their key. If they would come into a community, if wind is so great, and we're doing such a great job for, one, our community as well as the environment as a whole, they should bring this right out front and dealing with these issues. Right now, everybody's drawing the line in the sand. You talk about a noise issue, that's a line in the sand. You talk about flicker issues, a line in the sand. Why do we need to do that? The concerns of the public are this: their health, their safety, their property values. Most of these people have their lifetime tied up into their property. They don't need that. It's hard enough dealing with the economy we have. You don't need to be losing people's retirement, right? If the wind industry would look at this and say, how can we handle this? How can we deal with this? Instead of drawing these lines and saying, if you're on that side, too bad, it would go a long ways for public trust. Okay, and how do you do that? Well, maybe you have to come up with property value guarantees. Maybe you have to take it, if your footprint for a wind farm is a 5-mile radius, maybe you have to deal with everybody within that 5-mile radius in a very, in a fashion that is responsible to everybody in it. It shouldn't be at the cost of those for the benefit of the entire world, okay? You need to deal with those people that are being impacted. And whether or not you believe there's health issues, or whether or not the property values go down, it's real to those people that live in those communities.
I think you're absolutely right. Yeah. Right, they feel it, it's real.
I got an analogy, it's pretty gross, but if I hit you in the head with a hammer, do I need a scientific independent experimental study to show that hitting people in the head with hammers hurts? Or do I take your word that it hurts?
Thank you.
Right.
Good point.
Right.
Go ahead.
This is what's happening out there for another, I mean, this is, you'll hear the same thing. They come in there, they go under the radar, they sign leases, la la. What happens is then the township is left to do the regulating. The township makes these ordinances, and they make them so that they are protecting their people and their townships and their wildlife and their property rights, et cetera. Then the wind companies, the developers come in, I'm not saying you particularly, but they come in there and they intimidate, and they come in and take, for instance, they took one of our township's ordinances that was in draft form and redlined it and said, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this, and then they started into the rest of their ordinance, which didn't have anything to do with wind. Okay, so the intimidation process is out there and is ongoing. What you guys present are guidelines. That's what they say, they're just guidelines. We don't have to follow them. Okay, so that's another thing. And then the last point is that, I probably forgot it. But the last point is it was a good.
We all understand, okay?
Well, that's what's happening. And so when I as a member of the public has a problem with like my cable or my consumers or whatever, I call you guys, Michigan Public Service Commission, and I say, this is a problem, and you guys look into it, and I get a call back, and things get resolved in a manner that should have been done in the first place, but didn't. So there is nobody for us to call, other than show up at these meetings, but you're still making guidelines, and they're still saying we're gonna go intimidate your townships and get them to change it. There's no money for a township to go against a developer who has lots of money and lots of subsidies that we're already paying them. But that's the thing. We are powerless at this point, and this is what's happening all over the world. I mean, I can say the country, the state, our townships, everywhere. It's happening everywhere. So as a public service commission, what is your role? Are you really there? I mean, are you stated that you're supposed to protect the public, or are you supposed to bring business, or are you supposed to? Are we in the right place when we're here talking to you guys?
Yeah, that's a very, very good question. The Public Service Commission's mission statement is something about providing, I'm trying to remember it off the top of my head, is to...
Safe, reliable, cost-effective energy.
Safe, reliable.
I think that's in it. Safe, reliable, cost-effective supplies of energy services, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
Something like that.
That was the first question I asked when I came on board here. What is our mission? And we decided it basically boils down to advocating for wind energy as an alternative source of energy, but also to protect the public health in the process. And I think that pretty much closes it out, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, our mission is to.
Not our
revise the
mission on this
sample zoning
committee.
ordinance,
Well,
and that's it.
I'm not speaking for the Public Health Commission, but I was talking about the commission. That's the commission's.
Your question is, are these
What is ours?
concerns being addressed to the right place? And I think yes and no.
I remember my last point.
Keep in mind, actually, the Bureau, the Public Service Commission has very limited, very focused authority. Okay, you may call them up about a complaint about a regulated monopoly, the phone company, electric utility. Private wind developers are not a regulated monopoly, they're private businesses.
Right.
Private businesses, if they want to go out, and certainly if I was a wind developer, I would not do this because I think it's a bad policy. But they have a right to go talk to your neighbor and sign a lease. The neighbor has a right to sign a contract that may be the stupidest contract in the world. The local government has no right to restrict that two individuals to enter into a contract, no matter how stupid it is. So that is something that you all do need to keep in mind.
So, I mean, the bottom line is the Public Service Commission cannot regulate wind turbines. So,
But can you get to our legislatures?
well, I mean,
We are having a heck of a time.
the legislature would have to give the Public Service, correct me, would have to give them the authority. They cannot regulate wind turbines. That's why we're sitting here writing guidelines for the municipalities, because they tell us they can't regulate them.
But we're also told at the same time that you can't regulate wind differently than any other industry. So here we are making these guidelines for wind, and we get down to the real place where they deal it in, and they say, sorry, you can't regulate us differently than you do the industry, or any industry. So you
Well,
guys
but
are
the
making this-
municipality, that's not true, because the municipality can set up any zoning law it
But
wants.
the developer comes in and says,
Well,
you
they're not
can't.
gonna say, please regulate us. I mean,
No,
that's what
they
they do.
won't, they say it's exclusionary and take us to court. So you really can't even
well,
do this.
I don't.
So our job is even more important in a sense, if communities are depending on our commission, not this group, but the commission, to provide safe guidelines, we simply have to develop the best guidelines we can put in place as a guideline, and communities are
hope that
free
we
to take.
can have
But they
some
gotta be
feedback.
lower.
Yes.
I'm on record here, I'll say it again, that 50, making it 50 instead of 55, noise limit is kicking the can down the road.
Yeah.
You've gotta do better than that.
Let me mention something too, because I read over an ordinance, this relates to your comment.
I don't necessarily agree with that.
I don't.
Yeah, and it was interesting to me.
I'm just saying as
All right.
as one member.
They had 3 different types of facilities, and they had different sound levels for the 3 different types of facilities. And I was thinking, now that's interesting that the county would do that, because, I mean, it's a lawsuit, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the point you made, you know. I mean, if I'm a wind developer and I say, okay, your standard is 45, and this industrial park standard is 60, I have to ask the question, why am I being treated differently, right? And I was surprised to see this in an ordinance.
You're in an industrial.
Well, yeah, there has to be, if there is a difference, there has to be a rationale.
I
But-
think you have to say it's for
Yeah.
all industry and not just the wind industry.
yeah.
We're gonna try to get on with some other topics. I know we have at least 2 more hands up.
But I think,
Jerry,
Jerry, I think we need to make the point, we're coming up with these draft guidelines, you will all see them. So actually, we might be down at 20, and you don't even know that at this point,
We like
okay? So you will have a chance to see the actual comments, and so I would like to get these guidelines out there, and I just want to say that.
Because what's out there right now says 55.
55. And so whatever we do is going to be better. I can assure you of that. Hopefully. I don't know. I can't assure
Because,
anybody.
I forget your name, you were kind enough to give me this mission statement. Let me just read
Oh,
read
yeah.
your statement. The mission of
Different.
the mission of the Michigan Public Service Commission is to grow Michigan's economy and enhance the quality of life of its communities by assuring safe and reliable energy, telecommunications, and transportation services at reasonable rates.
Couple comments. This is a health group, right?
It's a win and
Work group.
Work group.
Okay, wind and health. All right. Mark, right?
Yes, sir.
I'm not sure that I agree with your position or you're in the right room. Because, and don't take this the wrong way, but it appears that you're in the chair of trying to guarantee that wind energy fits everywhere. When you say you can't go to 40 because it'll kill the wind industry, is as wrong as saying that a certain amount of people that take a prescription drug are going to die from a heart attack, and that's okay. I don't feel it's okay. I don't feel that just because you saw the word agriculture on some property, that wind turbines fit there. There's very heavy residential areas that are zoned agriculture. Every industry doesn't fit in every community. Some places,
Which was my point.
it's just,
That wind industry probably won't fit in the community that wants to set noise levels at that level for that industry.
right.
For
That
all
was my
industry.
point. Well, so crickets,
That's a natural occurring thing, a wind turbine.
okay, but it has the same, the issue is how you're treating it. So my point here was not that put it wind every place. It is when you make the decision locally to set a standard locally, there are pluses and minuses. One of the minuses may be you won't get wind developers who come in.
Right, or it may be such that availability to the grid is really good here, and wind is good here. But now we have an ordinance that makes it safe for people to live. So if I want to put a wind development in here, I have 46